Cool. I think we are all on. So, hello guys. This is our December truffle wrapped community call. We've skipped a few because of the holidays, gave everyone a break, but we have a lot of exciting summaries for the year and then also updates. So I'm gonna not do anything really this stream, which is exciting because we have all of our team leads here to represent our different components of Truffle to give you kind of a good summary of everything that's going on. So if we want to just, I guess, maybe everyone go give a round for introducing themselves, and then I'll kick the people who don't matter off until they matter again and bring them back on later. But for now, we can. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Nick. I lead engineering for Truffle.
Who's next? Me. Clockwise round. Yeah. Hey, I'm Kevin. I focus on right now developer extensions and integrations and other bits.
Hi, I'm David. I am the lead for the Ganache project.
Hi, I'm Faina. I lead layer 2 tooling for Truffle.
Okay, cool. So very exciting. I guess I will just get started. Goodbye, Kevin, Faina, David. I'll bring you on later when you become more relevant. So let me turn you guys off with these nifty tools, and then Nick, take it away. I don't know what you wanted to present because I felt like you have the biggest idea of what's cool. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I'll start by saying in 2022, I think Truffle realized kind of where its soul is, and that's like we can build tools to solve specific problems and then kind of package them up a little more atomically. So rather than providing this, all or nothing development experience, we're now more and more moving in the direction of maybe this one tool will be useful for you, right? Like you use your other tools as you do, but maybe you'd like this one feature. And that gives me a lot of hope for the code we've written and the capabilities we've built over the years, just being able to iterate on them.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think definitely the Truffle narrative of collaboration versus competition has been really strong. I talked to the Live Peer founder recently, and their devs are using the Truffle debugger with their hard hat projects, which is exciting. And I think that's definitely the direction Truffle's going, and hopefully Nick can demonstrate all the things that are really cool that will take over the industry. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't prepare that demo, the hard hat with Truffle debugger.
No.
But I
yeah. I
that's
think
what's calling out, right?
Yeah.
That's I mean, that was perhaps the favorite thing that I personally worked on this year was just, I realized, we could just hook up a hard hat project to our debugger. Now we have a package for compatibility, which is really neat. But I'll show the demo. I have 3 features to demo. Let me move this out of the way. This on screen? Cool. Yeah, so I'll demo. We just released console log and Solidity. Johnny come latelys here, but it works. It's about time. And then if you're not familiar with Truffle Dashboard, I mean, you'll see it. It's over here. It lets you sign transactions from the command line using MetaMask. And we just added decoded data. So it used to just be hex. Now it will show you only for Truffle projects right now, but you'll see it'll show you, clearly what you're doing. And then we're about to release Truffle call command, which is just a command line way to read blockchain data. So they're kind of all mixed together in one big demo, but I'll demonstrate that after I make fonts bigger. Cool. So up top here, I'm going to run Truffle develop the log just to get a logs. This is my demo Magic Square contract. You don't really have to worry about what a magic square is. It's a square. All the numbers, all the rows, columns add up to the same number. And I added some console log statements. The way it works is you just import at the top truffle/console.sol, and then you have access to console log. You can pass extra arguments, to look at things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to the dashboard network. Here, I'm already connected. And if I migrate, reset, compile all, after it does the compilation, you can see now, well, you can roughly see from the project that there's a library square lib. I'll deploy that. And then the second part of the deployment, once this goes, come on, buddy. You can do it. You're going to do it. You're going to do it this time. How many of these do I have to do? That's weird. Usually my demo gods are not annoyed at me.
Are you on Girly right now?
No, I'm connected to Truffle Develop just for the logging.
Mm.
We're just gonna stop all this stuff. Restart, close this one. It's the right buddy. Let's try that again. Migrate, reset, compile all. So that's square lib, and then we should see. Are you kidding me? I just did this like 10 times in a row without problem.
Sounds like live demos.
I've had 5 years of good luck with this, so I guess I cannot complain. Restart all the things, delete all the directories. Get the logs going. We got all of them. That one's running, that one's running, that one's running. Restart. For good measure. Do one of these. Try this again. I mean, I can do Girly, but I wanted to show the console log stuff. Compile all.
Oh, cool. I can. Whoops. No, never mind.
11th time will work. And you can see the decoding. Why is this not mining immediately? Let's try Girly. All right. You'll have to trust me that console logging works. The logs will appear here. I cleared my scroll back. You're going to have to trust me. Let's try Girly. So we don't need Truffle Develop anymore. We still need Truffle Dashboard. We'll just start this one over after I switch to Girly. All right, please hold.
Oh, okay. Did I get frozen? Did it die? So stream.
I'm still here.
Okay.
All right, here we are connected to Girly. I have some ether. Oh, it's just like there's all these requests here. That's the problem. Probably because I ran this 10 times and didn't clear them out. Truffle Dashboard. Once again, console, migrate, reset, compile all. Square lib. Gonna give me the signature. You're gonna give me the signature. Wonderful. Yeah, what's weird about Truffle Develop? I don't know what's going on there. So now Gurley's going to confirm. That should be fairly fast. Well, wouldn't be as fast as my intended demo.
Whoever said Gurley was fast.
Well, faster than mainnet.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so there it is. There's the migration, and I'll do, well, once it confirms. Well, I was worried I wasn't going to use the whole 10 minutes you gave me, Emily.
No worries. I gave it to you just because I knew this would happen. This is all planned, guys.
Yeah, thanks. All right, so then instant equals await magic square.
Okay, I feel like we're blocking the screen, so I'm gonna.
Transaction 3x3 magic square. We're going to sign it. Request I'm making. Pretty. That's garbage. Cool. All right, let's so we're gonna just call magic square. We're gonna do magic square gives us a get square function. I'm just gonna call that get square function. Look at that, the data right away. So that's coded get call. We did an overload resolution, so you'll notice that with a lot of other similar tools that they specify a function call. They put signature. Not the most sophisticated
Wait,
example.
Nick, I'm gonna stop you right here.
Please.
Okay. I hid myself, and then you got all weird and echoey.
Well, like Ethers JS.
Okay, there we go. You're not echoey anymore.
I like you'll often see in Ethers, for instance, if you want to precisely specify an overload, you got to do this like parentheses types syntax. And I'm not satisfied with this. Like sometimes this might be necessary, right? Like sometimes your functions may have so many different overloads that are so like subtly different. But in practice, I don't think it's that hard. Most applications, we could guess based on what you're saying as arguments which overload you're talking about, and so that's what our Truffle encoder does. And so we use Truffle encoder inside this Truffle call command, and so I can.
Nick,
hi.
Can I stop you? The pip is blocking the code view.
The pip.
That's what Amal said.
I don't know what a pip is.
Oh, picture in picture? Is that what you're saying, Amal?
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So
yeah, I got it. Okay, so here's the result of Truffle call. And let's switch to mainnet where there will be more data and go to Etherscan. And we'll just find a contract. Secret Santa looks good. Get the address. Sure, let's just pick one at random. I have no idea what this does. And I'm going to specify the fetch external option, paste the address, and we will call deposit count, and we'll see how many deposits I made. So you'll notice they have a function called deposit count. It's a view. They're at this address, and I wanted to know how many deposits I made. Since this is the first time I'm interacting with this contract, I would expect to see 0. Let's find something else that maybe has data. Yeah, let's just look at the Merkle root. Do the same thing again, but instead of doing deposit count, we're going to look at the Merkle root. There it is, same value. So this is command line interface to Etherscan's view read contract with full support for structured data, and hopefully you'll agree that in more advanced data, like more complex data that comes back from a contract will look very nice because it uses our decoder and our rendering libraries for that.
Cool.
Sorry, I don't get to demo. Well, if I skip Truffle dashboard, I could show you what the logging looks like.
And just to clarify right now, truffle call or like calling contract functions is just the read portion.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
But it should be quick work to do truffle send after that, because it's much the same, right? You got to encode, you got to submit to the network, and then when you get a result, you got to decode. So we can do much the same, except with truffle send, we'll have to add a signature in there. So let's see this thing log. Instance equals await magic square dot deployed. Instance dot generate magic square, and this time we'll generate a 5x5. And you can see here's our logs. They happen as the transaction is mined into the block inside Ganache. And Ganache is powering the console log functionality here entirely. And we show you the logs inside the Truffle develop console. So that's what I got.
Cool.
Looking forward to 2023.
Cool. Okay, so just to clarify on my end, Truffle log, and I'm sure, I don't know if David will touch on Ganache log later. So Truffle log is specifically for logging things that are coming from Truffle into. Can you explain to me why there's a Truffle log versus a Ganache log?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So if I go back to sharing my screen, I'll just show you. Yeah, this console log functionality. If I pop open the hash make bug. So effectively, Ganache provides console.sol that something inside Ganache has to know that you want to log to the console, because the blockchain doesn't know about the console. So what we've done, following in the footsteps of Hardhat and other tools, is we use the same precompile address that Hardhat provides, Hardhat network. And so Ganache provides that precompile and Solidity, an easy to use Solidity file that you can get. And just to keep, on the Truffle side, to make sure you don't need to install Ganache separately, what we do is we just re-export Ganache's console.sol, basically, so that you can get it inside. And you could do this.
Right.
I think, I don't know what the package is.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is definitely a leading question on my end.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you could do that, but then you'd have to install the corresponding Ganache package. So we wanted to skip that.
Yeah. Sorry. What I meant was more so we have Ganache log for people who are just using Ganache with their whatever project they're using. Truffle log is specifically so that we can use it with Truffle test, right? And then there's also nifty configurations you can do with Truffle console in the Truffle config, right?
Yeah, but I'm not super well versed in that. So
okay. Well, it's yeah.
You should speak to that then, Emily, because you sound more knowledgeable.
Yeah, I'm like trying to poke you at questions, but yeah. So essentially, right? So we have Ganache logging, which shows up in the terminal, right, as Nick had demonstrated, which will handle Hardhat's console log as well as Foundry's console and Viper's print. So it's cross-compatible with all of our different CLIs. What Nick is demonstrating specifically with Truffle now is if you have a Truffle project, right, and Truffle needs to communicate with Ganache, things like Truffle test consoles will show up in how do I explain this?
In
So,
the
like,
test console.
Right. In the test console, it'll be there in like a pretty format, which you can also specify how to configure in the Truffle config. So you also don't have to go digging through the Ganache logs as well. So that's kind of the smoother interaction you would get from using a Truffle project with Ganache versus Ganache with any other CLI. So that's, yeah, I should have just fed you a line. Yeah, so Amal's here. He's the one who worked on Truffle Test. He has a lot of keen insights to add. But it is 11:22, so I'll have to kick you
I've
off.
used at least double my time. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
no worries. Thank you so much. This was exciting.
Yeah, hope to see
Just
you all in the
proving
new
that
year.
all of us are real and this is not a robot communicating everything. So that's why things go
Oh,
wrong.
I'm so embarrassed.
Don't be
Bye.
embarrassed. Okay, cool. So goodbye, Nick. Next
Thanks.
up is David, who represents the Ganache team. So you might have more to say about console log or whatever, what has Truffle done this year? What is Truffle planning for 2023? Or yeah, Ganache, Truffle Ganache.
Yeah, our biggest thing that we've released recently is this feature called Detach Mode, which is pretty exciting. And I can try to demo that. Hopefully my demo will go better than Nick's demo. So let's let me share my screen here. Is that working? You see that?
Yes.
First, we like to, with all new features for Ganache, we try to make some silly like meme-like video, and so we made one of those. If you haven't seen it yet, here is this features meme video. Stop me if the audio is not working, and then maybe we can just paste a link to it.
Or follow us on Twitter.
Follow us on Twitter. Yes.
Right.
So let's see if this works. I'll mute my mic and see if that works. All right, and that's that. We had a lot of fun making that. Almost as much fun as making the feature itself. So what the feature is, and what that video tried to demonstrate, other than Sandra Bullock, is a solution to this problem that users have had for years, since Ganache started back in, I think, 2017 or so. When Ganache starts up on the terminal, it can't start accepting requests right away. And so what users have had to do is start Ganache and then put it in the background and then just wait some amount of time. And 5 is like the typical amount of time that people put in. You can, if you search for Ganache and Sleep in GitHub, just search all repositories, you'll find hundreds of examples of people doing this. And it makes your test needlessly slower, because Ganache is usually available before this, way before this. Just sometimes CI can be slow, and so it made it very difficult for users to use Ganache in a way that they would expect, because on your local machine, maybe it would work fine to just say Ganache and then you could start running your commands rather than having to sleep. But in CI, because of the unpredictability there, it would be much slower, and then you'd get random test failures, and flaky tests are the worst tests. So we added a new flag called detach, and when you pass detach to Ganache, when you start it up, it puts Ganache in the background, but it doesn't return to your terminal until after Ganache has confirmed that it is ready to accept commands. And so what that lets you do is chain commands together. So I'll go ahead and demo that a little bit. Let's clear that. Let's see. So let's do Ganache detach. See if I can type. So it's not your usual Ganache output. So what has happened here is that Ganache started up and in the background and returned and then gave you this this dessert flavored name for the instance of Ganache that's running in the background. And we can see that that instance is running by running this new command called instances list. And now we can see we have this Ganache instance running in the background. We can start another one if we wanted to. Let's do a new port. And the same thing. Now, if we list the instances, let's put it at the top of the screen to make sure it's not hidden from anyone. You can see we have 2 instances now. So if we want to stop these instances, we can say instances stop. See my typing here, pureed lemon brownie. That doesn't sound very good. Most of these I want to eat. That one not as much.
For our gym bros who need to drink it.
Yeah, salted peanut pudding though, that could be pretty good. Okay, so now if we list them out, we'll see that there's no instances running. Cool. But to demonstrate like what this lets us do, like I'll show you what it would be like before. So let's do Ganache. Start up a Ganache with wallet dash dot total accounts equals 1. That's just so we can, it doesn't fill up the terminal. And then let's try to query Ganache right away. This could work, but probably won't because I'm screen sharing. That slows my machine down. And let's see if this works. So what this is doing is starting Ganache. It's giving us 1 account. And then we are going to curl that Ganache. So the default port's 8545. So we're going to try to get information from Ganache using curl. The information we're getting is all of the accounts, and then we're going to try to output that. And let's see if it works. Oh, right. I have to put that in the background. Sorry. Oh, wrong way. There we go. Is in that right? I think it was pausing and it wasn't working. So, but I'm not actually sure. Let's demo it actually working now. This is the point of this feature is like it was difficult to start Ganache and get data out. So now let's clear that, put this back at the top for you. This is it's a lot of kind of boilerplate now. Oh, I threw fork in there. Let's take fork out. I'll explain that in a second. So we're going to assign the output of running Ganache with detach mode enabled to the environment variable called Ganache. Then we're going to do the same command I did earlier, curl, to get the list of accounts. And then we are going to stop that instance using that name. So that this lets us clean up our Ganache without having to run kill or any other kind of fragile method of stopping the instance. So let's do that, see if it works. Addresses in use, that's good to know. Instances list, Ganache. Why is it in use? Oh, because I put Ganache in the background earlier. There we go. Gosh, instances. There we go. All right, let's run it again. There we go. So now what we did is ran this started Ganache with detach mode, put it in the background, immediately ran curl to fetch the list of accounts. We got the account that we added, so just 1 account, and then we stopped the instance. So super useful. It's going to be super useful to do this in just automated tests. I don't expect people to be writing this all of the time, but just adding it to your test will be pretty useful. And then earlier I mentioned forking, or what we call zero config mainnet forking, which lets you access start Ganache forking off of mainnet at the latest block with full archive node access with just this command. So if you start Ganache up with Ganache -- fork, you will use our kind of special Infura key to access Infura archive nodes, and we have a super high rate limit. So you're unlikely to hit that rate limit. It's really hard. I only had to do it so you could test our automatic rate limiting backoff feature. But super useful, really easy to use. It supports other test nets, or it supports the test nets as well. So now we have Gurley being forked. And if you need to know more, you can always do ganache -- help, and you can get the full list of options that we support. So as for what's coming in the future, Ganache UI refresh. I think that's the most exciting thing that we're currently working on. So look forward to that. Next year is going to be exciting for the team.
Yeah. No, I'm super excited for that because I think it's really good for beginners. I think we're also maybe embedding it into our VS Code extension. I do want to say one thing about Ganache detached mode. I noticed like you had that area where it said flavor, right? And it was like Ethereum. I think the thing I was the most excited about is, and I think Faina might touch on this, maybe, I don't know. I'm just speaking for other people at this point. Really supporting that multi-chain narrative, being able to have multiple Ganache instances, forking like Optimism and one on mainnet, and playing around with all of them at the same time without having to open multiple terminals is a really cool, I don't know, thing that
Yeah,
we could do.
all of that's on the roadmap too. Starting with this new concept called flavors. So we already have a Filecoin flavor that you can use. If you install at Ganache/Filecoin, you can start Ganache with Ganache -- flavor equals, and then the package name at Ganache/Filecoin. And you'll get that flavor started up, and that should work with detached mode today. But what's going to be really exciting, or what is really exciting that is coming next year, is the ability to start up an entire environment all at once. So if you want to have your L2s, your Ethereum, your Filecoin, IPFS, you can do all that with one command with Ganache. So that's also really exciting. It's a little bit beyond Ganache UI.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
coming. Yep.
No, this is really cool. And again, like I said before, this is a collaborative tool. So, I mean, everything with Ganache is on localhost. So you can just add it to your hard hat config or, the other tools as well. So thank you so much, David, for demonstrating this. This is really exciting.
Thanks, Emily.
I think next we're going to bring on Kevin, and I'll kick you off. Bye, David.
Bye.
Okay.
Hello.
Take it away, Kevin.
Cool. Okay, so to jump in, let me share my screen. Wrong button. Turn me off. Okay, can you guys see that? Okay.
Yes, we are
Yes. Okay, just checking. Yeah, thanks, Emily. Cool. Yeah. So as per everyone, I'm gonna do a quick kind of overview of what we've been working on in regards to extensions this year, specifically Visual Studio Code extension, singular / soon to be plural extensions. We're actually working on multiple now. But yeah, just to back up, as mentioned, my name's Kevin. Amongst other things, I've been working on some VS Code extensions. And what I was going to cover is just a quick overview of the themes and goals that we've had while building out this first extension, and then jump into a retro of kind of what we've added to the extension this year. And then the bulk of it will be actually showing it. So also a demo, and fingers crossed the demo gods are looking favorably upon us. And then close out with what's coming in 2023, and also just kind of final call to action on how you can try it out if you haven't installed it and want to try it out. Cool. Yeah. So I just left this slide in from a previous deck, but just in 10 seconds or 20 seconds, what is VS Code and what is an extension? I'm sure most of you know that are listening, but just in case you don't, VS Code's a source code editor or an IDE. It's by Microsoft. It's cross-platform. It's very popular, arguably the most used IDE or source code editor out there. And then extensions kind of by definition are just means of extending the functionality of the IDE itself. And it's really, really comprehensive in what you can change and add. And it's exposed through this, what it's called this extensions API. And it's kind of listed along the bottom there, just a bunch of very popular ones. And we've been learning a lot as we've been doing it ourselves, which has been cool. Cool. Yeah. So the themes as we've been building out this extension, as listed here, I won't go through all the bullets, but just kind of high level, really focusing on kind of enablement as a theme, and specifically bringing elements of the developer experience or user experience out of the terminal, because historically that's if you are building dApps, that's where you've been living. Obviously, you've been typically writing your code somewhere else, but all the other things you would do are typically commands that you'd be sending or firing off within the terminal. Nothing inherently wrong with that, other than perhaps that means the learning curve is a bit steeper, because just naturally they don't provide that kind of visual input, and then there's a degree of you don't know what you don't know first. So we've been really focusing on that. Kind of relatedly, visualizing the flow a bit as well through similar and elements, and actually we've been bringing over some elements of Ganache UI, but kind of leaning into that as well, and really helping people that are a bit newer to the space, as mentioned, get started and kind of guide them through the life cycle. And then lastly, possibly one of the biggest themes has been confidence in what you're doing, both from a general broader security standpoint. I mean, that's obviously always been important, but arguably more important than ever, just with the depressing amount of hacks and the things, sort of less favorable things going on within the space. And then similarly, from a troubleshooting standpoint, as I'll demo in a moment, we have a in IDE Solidity debugger, which is really nice. Cool. So that's the themes, and then highlights. So what we actually done this year in regards to extensions. We actually launched the extension back in April, I think, and that launched with some stuff, including the IDE debugger. There were some fixes we added after the fact, but yeah, that was kind of our baseline. Since then, this isn't the full list, but we've added this big sidebar, which you'll see when I demo it in a moment. Kind of simple thing, but I think it's quite important. Something called a VS Code walkthrough. And if you're not familiar, when you install an extension, or even some of the native functionality, you have this kind of walkthrough feature, which is kind of interactive. So you can kind of click through these different tabs and then see some description of what it is, and then actually jump straight into that feature, kind of launch, whether it's something perhaps in the command palette or other things you can actually interact with it from this walkthrough. Also for Ganache support, dashboard integration, and then debug fetch an external when debugging, and I'll show that as well, which is one of the newest things we've added, which is really, really cool. Cool. So with that, I'm going to jump into a demo. It's pretty ambitious demos in terms of what I'm trying to cram in. So hopefully it works. And this is what I'm going to show. So I might cross-reference this in a moment. Cool. So what I'm going to do, and shout Emily if you can't see or things freeze up or anything. I'll just keep going. But yeah, what I'm going to do is start with a fresh VS Code instance. I've got the extension installed. I'll come back to that tab in a moment. And then first thing you can do is create a new Solidity project. Kind of three choices here. First is kind of pure vanilla, really unopinionated, well, still Truffle based, but kind of minimal stuff. We have then a slightly more opinionated project. And then the third one is this ability to choose and unbox a Truffle box. And I'm going to choose our slightly dated, but kind of canonical MetaCoin example, just because it's a nice one to demo, just because it's simple. So I think I'll call it MetaCoin 3. So I was doing a quick test beforehand. And then that will pull down the box. And obviously we're in the sort of default Explorer view here, but what I'm going to now do is jump over to the sidebar that we have. And then this is obviously part of the extension. And then we have a kind of filtered view of your contracts. And if that works, that's kind of has support for monorepos. So if you have multiple directories containing contracts, it would just work. This dashboard view, this is actually going to change very soon to be more broader integrations, not just dashboard, networks, and then deployments and so on. And you'll see some of this stuff kind of light up as we go through the life cycle. So anyway, we've got a contract. Let's imagine that we've hacked around on this a little bit, and then we're ready to deploy it somewhere, in this case locally, just to kind of test things out. And then now what I'm going to do, I'll do it from here actually. So you've got kind of buttons baked into the UI. So go ahead and build. I mean, if I did a deploy, it would intrinsically build, just build it. Oh, I missed a step. To where we're going to deploy it to, I need to create a network. So what I'm going to do now is create a new network, create a Ganache instance. I'm going to create a forked instance, kind of not needed just for this contract, but I'm going to be using the same network later. As the fact it's forked, I'm going to be using that later. So I'm going to take a fork of mainnet, latest block, just on 8545. I'll call it mainnet, given it's a fork of mainnet, and that appears down here. Cool. So now I can actually go ahead and deploy it, and that should show up in our list of target networks. Go ahead and do that. We've also got, it's a bit hard to see because it's buried here, but we also have this dedicated Truffle tab. We haven't done a ton with it yet, but sort of filters the output of different things that you have running or that have been created by the extension. And a perfect place for like the Ganache logging or Truffle logging that we saw earlier as well. We haven't done that yet, but it might just work actually. We haven't consciously done it. So cool. So they deployed successfully by the looks of it. Now what I'm going to do is show the debugger, the NID debugger in action. It's very contrived, this one, because we're just going to debug the constructor call when the contract was deployed. Select our network there. This metacoin includes both the library and the contract itself, so I'll just deploy that. Debug that, and then it jumps into the native debugger within VS Code. So it's using all the native kind of constructs you've got here, like the variables view, any watches you create, etc. I'll do it super quick just because we don't have time, but there you go. That's the constructor call as per the deployment, which is really nice. And then the other thing I was going to show, so let's say we've hacked on a bit further, we're ready to deploy it to a test net. We also have, as I alluded to, Truffle dashboard integration. So I'll go ahead and do deploy again. We've got kind of this pinned kind of first class Truffle dashboard option at the top. If I jump back over to this tab, hopefully everything's unlocked. It's not. Never mind. I'm not going to unlock my MetaMask just because I have to jump into, it's going to do a few extra hoops. But luckily Nick showed this earlier anyway. So this is where it would show up. And that's as far as I was going to go to show the transaction showing up here. So nothing major missed there. But other than, because I canceled out of it, just kind of essentially failed. And then the other thing, speedrun style, was going to be just showing the debugging an external transaction for which I don't have the source. All I have is a transaction hash. And as mentioned, this is new. Actually, I have it opened here, the same transaction. So this is a transaction from 5 years ago, over 5 years ago. I think it was the first ever purchase of a crypto punk. And the way we can do that, I'm just going to make sure, I'm just going to restart this Ganache instance, this forked instance. And then we can go ahead and debug. We should only see this. Yeah, we don't see it. I've just kind of cleared out the previous transactions, paste in the transaction hash. Just to stress, we don't have the source, we don't have anything. And it should now, it actually reaches out to either Etherscan. So the only caveat, of course, is that the contracts need to be verified on either Etherscan or Sourceify. So yeah, this is a transaction from 5.5 years ago, very old version of Solidity. And I think it's buy function. I think that you're actually buying the equivalent of kind of mint. I don't know the exact logic there, but yeah, I think this was the first. When I was kind of browsing the transactions, this was the first kind of what looked like the first kind of mint / purchase of a crypto punk. It would have been a very smart purchase back then. And that's super cool, right? We don't have the source, so really a good way. Really nice for either debugging contracts that you've deployed and are already on chain. Or debugging potential issues, but equally learning, playing around. We've been using it for, infamous hacks and just things that are, just stuff going across the network. Cool. So that's that. And I think that's all I wanted to demo. Cool. Yeah. I know it's super quick, so I'll keep going. So what's coming in 2023 in regards to extensions? Firstly, as I mentioned earlier, more extensions. So we're going to be splitting out, modularizing our current extension because it's already getting kind of a little bit heavy in terms of the things we have within it. So we're going to be splitting things out and then kind of having a kind of bundled version as well. But it will allow you to install certain things independently, like the debugger, and going further on integrations as well. We also have an IPFS extension in the works for the whole off-chain asset lifecycle. Also debugging enhancements, really leaning into multi-chain debugging as well. So you can kind of, perhaps if you've got a bridge or you want to debug something on the layer 2, and then see, if it's perhaps talking back to layer 1 or vice versa, being able to kind of debug, step back and forth between the two. And then also other IDE and framework support, Hard Hat and Foundry, etc. So making those work in a first-class way within the extensions where we possibly can. And then I put just more at the end if there's anything you as users of the extension or ideas you might have. We'd love input on it for sure. Just you can go to trufflesuite.com/community. Cool. And then lastly, if you want to try this out, if you haven't yet, you can go to marketplace.visualstudio.com and search Truffle, and it should show up. Or do it, probably the better way is within VS Code itself. Just go to the Marketplace tab. I didn't mention it. We've got about 30,000 downloads, just under about 29,500 downloads. So yeah, no, we're happy with that. We're getting some nice traction with it, and folks in the community using it and getting issues and requests and stuff. So
yeah,
cool. Yeah. So
this
is all I had. Yeah, let me stop sharing.
Awesome. This is super cool because I remember I did go to like a hackathon and I was talking to this guy. He uses exclusively Foundry. He's like, I saw the debugger demo in ETH Denver. And he's like, I'm super excited about this, but I'm not going to be able to use it because I use Foundry. But I love that we're
sure.
focusing on, again,
as mentioned, Imminent is splitting out the debugger into its own extension and getting it working first class across Foundry and Hard Hat. So that's going to be early next year. So definitely addressing that use case or that scenario rather.
Right. If you could pull up the demo again, I just wanted to highlight kind of my favorite, like other favorite things about the VS Code that has been useful for me. Specifically, like when you guys are, working with the front end, we need to copy over the ABI and all of that. I was asking. Oh, did you pull up your screen again, Kevin?
If you could share. I did. I forgot I'd stopped sharing. Sorry. Yeah, let me do that. I did bring VS Code into focus, but yeah, there you go.
Cool. Yeah, down here in the deployments section, just really fast access to
my screen. So I was trying to move these ones up, but yeah. So yeah, I think what you're referring to is both the ABI, right? And jump straight back and forth to the contract itself, and then also the transaction hashes. If I go down there, of both the transaction hashes and the address is of the contracts as they're deployed. I think that's what you're referring to, right?
Yeah. This has been, it's so small, like of a feature, but it's been like just really smoothed a headache that I've had, during my development process. And then also additionally, I think Ganache, if you open up the details view.
Right click details, this guy, right?
Yeah.
This is where it looks kind of weird in a funny way because you're seeing Ganache UI.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like it. I guess it's empty right now because we haven't done any deployment since you reset it.
No, I restarted. Yeah, I won't do it now just in the interest of time. But yeah, as you were already saying, Emily, if we did transactions, they would just show up in here. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I love this. It's been so helpful during my development process. So I'm going to kick you off. I'm going to bring on Faina. Goodbye, Kevin. Okay. Hi, Faina.
Hi.
Okay. So I guess introduction again. Faina is our L2 lead. I'm super excited about the Truffle multi-chain narrative. I think I'm a little biased because I went to Dev Connect in Amsterdam and you gave a talk about like what Truffle was doing and just your expertise in the space. And I was fangirling incredibly hard. And I remember at the end of the talk, the CTO of Open Zeppelin like stood up and pointed at you and was like, yes, like let's collaborate. I just wanted to point that out. We're pulling in some clout here. But Faina, I guess, do you want to talk about a little, what Truffle has done with L2 so far this year?
Yeah, I'd love to. So that talk is online in case anybody wants to watch it, but it sort of I think encapsulates our view that the workflow for developers with layer 2 is a little bit different than what you might be used to with mainnet, largely because you might need to keep track of more than one network, and you might need to know information that currently we aren't really worrying about in the regular developer workflow, like batch finalization and things like that, that if you're just deploying to mainnet, those concepts don't even exist. So I think the layer 2 ecosystem has grown tremendously this year. And our approach at Truffle has been to work to grow your dev tooling options to be commensurate with those changes and those workflow changes. So in practice, that's meant trying all the new layer 2 protocols, which has been really fun with Truffle, and identifying pain points where the developer experience could be better. So that's been very much our focus kind of since layer 2 came onto the scene. And so in the process, we've built some boilerplate examples in the form of Truffle boxes. You can read about more about those on our website. But we have a box for Arbitrum. We have one for Optimism. We actually have an Optimism bridge box, which I know, Emily, you have used and you've done a workshop for at DevCon. And so those boxes are sort of an opportunity for developers new to the layer 2 space to sort of jump in. The readmes are very detailed, and you can play around with these protocols and play around with what you can do on them. And we are also still working on a couple of boxes that are slightly more complicated for good reasons, because they're ZK rollups. So we're working on a box for Starknet that's almost complete. So be on the lookout for that in January, and a box for ZK Sync 2.0. Also almost complete. And through this process of developing these boxes and trying out these protocols, we've been able to identify some developer needs around layer 2 that require deeper changes to Truffle's developer experience. And so that's something that I've really been focusing on this year. When we started working on the ZK Sync Truffle box, we realized that, ZK Sync 2.0 actually uses a ZK Sol-C compiler. So that means that we need a way within Truffle to support that in a modular and reusable way. And so we're building a compiler plugin system so that you can bring your own compiler to Truffle and just create a plugin so that it matches with what Truffle is expecting, and you can continue your developer flow on Truffle. And one of the big things that we realized was, because we often in layer 2 need to be aware of what's happening on mainnet and what's happening on the layer 2 protocol, we need a multi-network approach. And so that led to a project we're calling declarative deployments, where instead of having to write a bunch of different scripts and order it yourself inside of migrations and run each migration separately on different networks, which is the way you have to do it now if you're trying to deploy a multi-chain project using Truffle. Instead of doing that, you tell Truffle what the desired end state of your project is, different networks and all, and Truffle does that hard work in the background of figuring out the order and what goes where and on what network and when, so that from the developer perspective, it's a much smoother experience. And so that's something that you should also be on the lookout for the MVP of coming in 2023. And so we've got a lot of things, been a very busy end of the year for us. A lot of things are almost finished. And so that's one of the ones that I'm personally most excited about, because I've been working on it a lot. So I think those are the main things that we've done in 2022, is just really focus in on how can we make the developer experience better, because layer 2 is here to stay, and that workflow is different, and the developers working in that space are going to have different questions and different needs that we need to keep in mind as we're developing these tools.
Yeah. No, Truffle's multi-chain work is it blows my mind, especially I think because we have you as an expert here. It's a big, what do you call it? Competitive advantage. You alone are our
Happy to be here.
yeah. So as Faina had mentioned, along the boxes, route, we do have basically ways to demonstrate how to teach you how to build multi-chain. So with regards to the bridge box, if you haven't seen it, I gave a talk at DevCon about incorporating Optimism bridges into your application, as well as an interview with I forgot her title. Someone who works at Optimism, who knows important things. But yeah, you can catch that on our YouTube channel and DevCon's channel as well. And then again, we had touched upon it with David from Ganache about kind of that multi-chain narrative as well. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of really intelligent things that I never thought about that Faina just proposes. And I'm just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's
Thanks.
yeah.
I think the ganache narrative is going to be really interesting. I think in case you don't know, with the major optimistic rollups, you can just pretend and use ganache, just like you pretend that ganache is mimicking mainnet when you're locally developing. I think it can be slightly more difficult depending on the ZK rollup. And so that's something that we're still looking into, how to make that a little bit easier. The consensus ZK EVM with the testnet just came out last week. You should be able to just pretend with ganache, and that should be fine. You can actually use Truffle out of the box, no configuration needed to use the consensus ZK EVM. So that's really exciting. And I think that there are these new workflows around ganache, right? Now that we have the detached mode, I think that's a really nice feature to really be able to kind of manage, all right, I have two separate networks. I'm pretending this one is a layer 2 protocol and this one is mainnet. How will they interact? I can deploy contracts to one to make it look more like Optimism or Arbitrum or whatever it is, and get a feel for how they'll interact. And I think that's a really exciting flow that we already support, but you'll see hopefully more documentation in 2023 about how to do that and what the best practices might be that are emerging, because it's all very new. I think that's the main thing with layer 2, is that things change on the dime, and there's always something new. Every week I see new protocols come out, or new developments within protocols, or new ways of looking at the developer workflow. It's exciting. I have not been bored.
Yeah, I love how you pointed out like ganache can just like be a layer 2, especially like I know we tried it out with Optimism, which is EVM equivalent, which also means you can bring in the debugger to be debugging L2 protocols, which is kind of mind-blowing as well. But yeah, I don't know, excited for the future, excited for what's coming. Like, keep an eye on Truffle. I'm just gonna call it again. CTO of OpenZeppelin literally stood up, and I had like stars in my eyes. I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!"
We're really excited about that. As
Yeah,
far as, for declarative deployments, that was the thing that he was excited about, and that we are still working on. And we are in touch with the folks at OpenZeppelin, and because we want to make sure that when declarative deployments comes out, first of all, the first coming out of declarative deployments will be an MVP. It probably won't have every single feature that you might expect, but that's because we want people to try it. We want to be collaborating with OpenZeppelin and anybody else who wants to collaborate on what would make a great declarative deployment system, because I would love for it to be portable. I would love for it to be something modular that you can take with you to whatever tool you're using, and then still be able to come back to Truffle to debug or to play with ganache or whatever it is that you want to do. So hopefully we can all kind of create this new declarative deployments world.
right. And then I think the last piece I wanted to highlight, you just like brushed it over, but like the StarkNet box also blows my mind. I talked to devs and I'm like, oh yeah, Truffle's coming out for like helping you work with a Cairo, which is like completely not EVM compatible. And yeah, I'm like, what? How? Like, this is magic. And I think again, it's really a good indicator of how Truffle is thinking about supporting kind of the future, and where we're going.
Project. Dave Killen, who probably isn't here because it's the middle of the night in Australia, has been working tirelessly on the StarkNet box in collaboration with people at StarkNet. And our goal is to make development on StarkNet as simple as possible using Truffle's tools, but also to educate, really, right? Because I think that one of the things I love about being at Consensus and being at Truffle is that I'm neutral, right? Like, I care about all of these layer 2s. I want this ecosystem to grow. I want Ethereum to scale. And so we want to make sure that we're able to support all of the different sort of permutations of what a layer 2 looks like in a way that is helpful to developers. So keep an eye out. The StarkNet box is early 2023, probably January.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay, so I'm going to kick you off and bring on Josh. Goodbye, Faina. Thanks for joining. So Josh is our product manager at Truffle. I'm sorry, I don't know if everyone else stole your thunder with regards to Truffle's coming up, but yeah, I don't know. Do you want to just take us away with what you think Truffle's going to be really killing it in, or how you are feeling, like, maybe more a broader overview for those of people who skipped everything except to watch you specifically.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, and everyone else did steal my thunder, but that's a good thing. Right? We're all very much aligned and excited about the future at Truffle. So yeah, I can kind of put a bow on everything, to use a bit of a Christmas metaphor there. And so kind of thinking about the future of Truffle, I guess there's like 5 kind of themes that I'll go over that'll hopefully, like I said, kind of wrap up sort of the things everyone else talked about. So the first one of those, I'll just dovetail right off of what Fana was talking about and mention again multi-chain support. So I also want to give this one special attention because if anyone's been using Truffle for a while, they know that we're experienced in doing this what I'll call the wrong way. So for a while, Truffle did have support for other networks, for Tezos and for Corda in our tools. But the issue there was that we maintained those integrations as a first party thing, and that's just going to get unsustainable after a while. So really, the way we're approaching this now with L2s is that we're really creating just the extension points for this. Like Fana mentioned, bring your own compiler. David mentioned the flavor system in Ganache. So really, we're establishing these baseline systems, or like I said, extension points for other networks to plug into. So it'll actually be like a sustainable multi-chain support in Truffle and all of our tools. So that's going to be super exciting. Kind of on that theme, I suppose, of broadening out, also going to mention embracing the ecosystem. So not only, multi-chain, but also multiple tools that people are using, right? Like Truffle's not the only CLI tool, on the block anymore. Of course, there's Hardhat, there's Foundry, and there may even be reasons that you have to or want to use those tools, right? Like Foundry is written in Rust, it's very fast. Maybe you want to run your tests in Foundry, but that shouldn't prevent you from using all of the other great tools Truffle has to offer, especially our debugger deployment system that Fana mentioned. So, you're going to see a lot more like guide content and us very consciously working to be compatible with these other tools as well. Third up is continuous security. So I don't really get to talk about this one too much, but as part of Consensus Software, we have access to the amazing Consensus Diligence team and all of their great security tooling. They have a fuzzer called Scribble. They have a static analysis tool called Mythex and Mithril, the underlying library for it. And so you're going to see us collaborating with them on a security microsite, which will be a really great end-to-end guide on considering security in your DApp, which, as we all know, is even more essential, I would say, in this ecosystem than Web 2, because we're always dealing with real monetary value, even just to send a transaction. So super important there. So that security microsite will be great to inform people. But in addition to that, of course, we're going to have greater integration with Diligence's security tooling. And that should also be pluggable as well. So you can incorporate really any security tools that you're using. But of course, Diligence is going to kind of be our lead integration there. So be on the lookout for that. Like I said, security being considered earlier and in every project is a huge thing for us, and the place we can really help the whole ecosystem. And so then the final 2 here to kind of wrap it up. We didn't really get to talk much about Truffle Dashboard either, but I kind of call this theme context and understanding. And you notice it in the VS Code plugin as well, but being able to pull things out of the CLI, kind of have this visual context always there for you to see, to manipulate, to view. Like you mentioned in the VS Code extension, even just having that deployment transaction and the contract address available in the lower left-hand corner, little things like that are super valuable. So you're going to see us surfacing a lot more of that information in places like the VS Code extension, like Truffle Dashboard. This really has is like a force multiplier, I guess, for all the other things I mentioned, like going back to security, right? Things like security reports from those tooling integrations within Truffle Dashboard, all that type of very useful stuff. All this that, like I said, helps you keep track of a lot of this context that you're building up as you're developing your DApp, and especially post deployment. And then finally, the last one here that I'll touch on is what I call end-to-end development. So for a while, Truffle did actually cover all of the, the lifecycle end-to-end in the sense of having, both smart contract development tools and then also some front-end tooling as well. Well, with Truffle Dashboard, we're kind of getting back into front-end tooling. So Nick mentioned our codec, our encoder, decoder. And we'll be using that within Truffle Dashboard for various things, but it also has allowed us to start building a library that's currently just called Truffle Codec Components. But you'll be able to easily, in your front end, like pull in contract interaction forms, contract state displays, things like that, kind of leveraging a lot of the benefits that we need to use within Truffle Dashboard. So those will be components that anyone can use there. And that is really the long and short of it. So I know there's kind of a lot to cover.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll go over it again in many community calls, but all very exciting stuff.
No, I definitely think there's a lot of, maybe to clarify things that, or maybe how do I put this? What I was really excited about and kind of what you said, I think the first part being extension focused, allowing people to plug in their L2s and create truffle flavors, I think is very in line with quick plug Web3 Unleashed. We talked about MetaMask snaps last week. And just the idea of, the ecosystem powers what is needed. They talked about how like Apple mobile apps, I think Apple only has created 0.001% of kind of what exists, and like giving power to kind of the community to help extend the functionality, both with snaps, both with truffle extensions. Really exciting. I think the second piece, when you talked about codec components, if it wasn't entirely clear, Truffle's ability to translate kind of hex data into very human readable, machine readable, I guess, translations is also really exciting. That's what powers our debugger to be able to understand, the code that's coming through. If you've looked at MetaMask, the UI transaction insights, we actually power MetaMask transaction insights going forward into talking about snaps like simulations, other things, and like what you said about, transparency. That's all Truffle too. Like, we're insane. Like, you don't know these things, but we're we're underneath everything, secret heroes that make everything better. I don't know. I feel like there's an idiom I'm missing here, or some like Batman reference that'll explain Truffle's role in the dev tooling ecosystem. But yeah, really excited. Thanks for coming on, Josh. I think maybe you're gonna be the clip that I pull out as promotion, because you gave the best kind of summary of everything that's going on.
Cool.
So big fame. Yeah, so I guess I'm just gonna wrap up. I don't know if I should bring everyone back on to just nod and smile while I talk. But yeah, this is a portion of the Truffle team. We're excited about the future. Like Kevin mentioned, definitely give us feedback. We are open source. Feel free to contribute, create issues, join our GitHub discussions, join us on Discord. If you want to use all the cool features that we have created and are going to be creating in the future, download our VS Code extension. You'll need to make updates for Truffle and Ganesh as well. So just reinstalling those or doing the updates. And I think, that's it. If you want to keep up to date with all things Truffle, follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at Truffle Suite. And maybe this is my sneak peek for 2023. I'm focusing more on short form content. Am I going to start a TikTok? I don't know. I keep saying I'm going to do it. I think I am going to do it 2023, but brief disclosure, I am a millennial. I don't know if I have the shame component is I can push it down enough that I'll start appearing on that platform, but really to kind of give you the little truffle bites of everything that we're doing. So you don't have to attend a 1 hour and 10-minute community call. But yeah, thank you so much. I don't know if the rest of you have anything to say. Otherwise, we can wave for 5 seconds as the lag of the live stream translates over to YouTube and LinkedIn. But yeah, okay. Bye. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks, all.
Catch us
Thanks,
next year.
Yeah, thanks everyone.